Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're talking about codependency in 2026. And who else to help with this mission than the good friend to the podcast, Nancy Johnston. Nancy, welcome back. You're in the fine state of Virginia, right?
Yes, I am. Yes, I
Morning
am.
time there. It's nice and hot here. Just as a um to date stamp the current weather
Hmm.
conditions.
Hmm.
We're now what you do Fahrenheit. So we're mid 90s, which is just unheard of in
Yes.
England.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
that's like 35 Celsius. So crazy weather. So I'm in a different room. Luckily, I've got options to look north facing with a couple of windows open. So we might hear some birds. And Nancy, you it's just hot off the presses, your new book. You here today, published by Pezzi. Now, to set this in context, I just looked back before we started chatting. We first did a podcast, which is available on my channel in January 2020. Sorry, January 2018. Now
Right.
that was face to face when we met up in London. Unfortunately, it's just
Yes.
audio only. And then we did a Zoom enabled one when Disentangle was published, and that was October 2020. Where does the time go?
No, exactly. And of course, we had a pandemic in
Yes,
between.
yes.
And so I think that was part of what had us hunkered down. But time is passing. Absolutely, Noel. Um,
Scarily so, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Even just a few minutes ago, when I said to you it was 2018, that just, it's hard to believe that it was that long ago. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because I
yeah.
often think if a lot of people, yeah, sometimes I listen to philosophers who say, "What are you waiting for before you start living?" Because eventually, you'll realize your life is gone. So if not now, when do you really
Yes,
start living? And
exactly.
because, another 5 years will go. And I often think life decisions should be, if not now, when? When are you going
Yes.
to make that decision that's going to improve your life? Anyway, so good to see you. You here today is hot off the presses. It was such a good read, Nancy, and
Thank you.
it's
Yeah,
200 readings. Now, the first thing I'll say is that
yeah,
the
just,
first and the
yeah,
200th is the same title, right?
yep. There we go.
So,
200 for growth from codependency to self-recovery.
right.
Yeah.
So, do you want to just now give a little quick bio of who you are? You're not an AI bot. You're a real person.
I'm not, I
Who
promise you
you
guys.
are,
Yeah.
your professional background, and then this book now, because we're going to talk about era three of codependency, following on, hey, from one and two. And
Right.
so we move on from addiction disease model and then family of origin and core symptoms to neuroscience embracing,
Yes.
attachment theory. And so that's the sort of core of what we'll be talking about. But do you want to just introduce yourself first?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am a licensed professional counselor and a licensed addiction counselor here in Virginia, as Noel said. I have been working with codependency for 38 years. I'm able to mark that, Noel, because that's when I entered my own recovery from codependency. A family member went into recovery for alcoholism, and I started in Al-Anon, um, thinking that I was there to help the alcoholic, and fairly quickly catching on that it was an opportunity, and that's such an important word, for me to get to know myself better. And not in a blaming way, but understand my dynamics that in contributed to the way the whole family system was running, let's put it that way. So I've already said a few words I want to highlight here early on in our conversation. Yes, I have professionally and personally worked with codependency over all those years, and books have come out of it. And where I am at now is really wanting to help the field keep treating and working with codependency in a non-pathologizing, compassionate, non-judgmental way. I think that's a really important thing to add to our codependency in 2026. So, just to say a little bit more, um, yes, Noel commented, and this will sort of be a structure for the way you and I are talking today. In my, so let me back up. So, Disentangle, when you've lost yourself in someone else, was a seminal book. In 2020, when we talked, that was the second edition of it coming out. And since then, during the pandemic, through the last 6 years, um, I have worked with a company called PESI, PESI, and PESI Publishing. They train clinicians, Noel.
Mhm.
And they invited me to take what I've learned as a human being and as a clinician, and how do I train clinicians in working with codependency? And so a workbook came out of it. We didn't do I don't think we did a podcast on that one. Um, and this book spins out of all of the disentangle my
Yeah.
life as a porter collie, the workbook, and then this. And this is trying, this shows my 12-step roots, to be frank. I was, I grew up in my self-recovery with Al-Anon's daily readers. And I have cultivated a daily readings book out of what I know how valuable it is to just sit down
Mm.
and ground and center in self for 3 to 5 minutes in a day and reconnect with the that program, whatever your program is,
Mhm.
that I'm working on to help me stop looking so outside of myself for approval, validation, people pleasing, conflict avoidance. And I'm finding my own breath even now as I come back and ground and center in me so that I can have this nice balance between external focus and internal compassionate connection. And that's the heart of my work these days. So I'll weave it in and then we can do some back and forth. 3 eras, ERA, folks, that's the word I'm using. The first era was roughly from 1985 to 2000-ish. That's when codependency, we first named it, came out of the word co-alcoholic, preceded it. And Melody Beatty wrote her Codependent No More book. We identified it. Claudia Black, Pia Melody, Charles Whitfield started writing about it all through the 90s. And we were excited, curious, and self-help was in a heyday. Era two then sort of came in, and everybody, this is the way I think about it. Noel, era two came in because all of a sudden we were overusing the word.
Mm.
It was so broad, it was so not clearly defined. And unfortunately, now I never was part of this because I've always been compassionate about it. But unfortunately, it became almost a negative word for some people, like a blame, like you shouldn't be so codependent
Mm.
would be an angle that might be said. And or people feeling like and gesturing like that was just so codependent of me. And so as the word went over here, new things started popping in our field, which you've already named. We started paying attention to attachment theory, neurobiology came up. This was really as the 2000s came in, and trauma informed care became really an established um, way of working clinically. What has happened now is, and I am part of helping it. Thank you for, I am part of helping it. All of a sudden, it's important to look at codependency through that lens of trauma and attachment issues. It's often a self-protective pattern of behaviors, not even in our awareness
Mm.
necessarily, that we established a very long time ago. Again, self looking at everything today through the lens of codependency that may not be serving us as well now, and have us sort of rigid and inflexible in our styles of relating and thinking rather than self recovery, which is again my word, my phrase, is about retrieving self and then building self, strengthening self, like we would a recovery effort of sorts. And when we do that, then we are more attuned to self and have more flexibility.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pause there. I know that was a lot of information for the conversation and for the viewers as well, but it's really giving you a glimpse of my 38 years of work with this.
Yes. Sorry, I was just temporarily distracted there because my broadband went on an unstable mode, and I
Yep.
think we had a slight pause. So I was like, I hope it comes back. But it
And
has.
I bet they'll love us no matter what.
Yes, we're not the perfect AI bot where you
No,
stay Starlinked online the whole time. So,
right.
okay, so lots of thoughts,
Yeah,
Nancy. So, um, I don't know. I'm just sitting with Rollo May when he said once the purpose of therapy is to set people free, which is a nice little small sentence that seems to capture a lot because, like he said, there's coping strategies that were probably necessary for the time.
you bet. Yeah,
But the question is, are they still needed
right.
today?
So let
Hmm.
me address trauma specifically.
Yep.
I'm moving more into it's in the workbook. There are readings on it. But what happens if we think of trauma, whether it's what we call the big T, like major
Yeah.
things have happened that have threatened or injured us or people we love, or the smaller T, which could be a parent's divorcing it. I hate to even differentiate. I actually don't want to go into that. But how I think about trauma, this is the old patterns, is that speaking from my own recovery, some too, it in it requires that I disconnect from myself so that I'm watching the other person and what they are doing. And I am editing me to the extent that I am shutting me down to not upset you, to not have you leave me. There's attachment coming in. It is when we really look at what trauma requires for survival, self abdication is a word that I just naturally comes to out of my mouth. I will say, Noel, the phrase self abandonment is being used a lot in our trainings and books these days. Great. I'm with it. I'm absolutely with it. I'm in a abandonment trauma package a webinar of mine is with Pessy. So um, anyway, so self-abandonment or self-abdication. Trauma requires that of us. So what I think doesn't matter. How I feel is not safe to go there. It has no place. So, yes, so then I've set up those long-standing patterns. And as I compassionately acknowledge these days, I'm not even aware of that necessarily before I begin my self-recovery journey. I'm just still asking the other person, what do you want? What would you like? Or sitting silently thinking, man, I don't like that idea, but not expressing it because my old pattern of not expressing is still quite there. Mhm.
Yes, and I think a great question in therapy at the assessment stage is to ask someone where and in what part of their life do they fail to say no?
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Because that, I
Yes.
think, can unpack a lot of their narrative, right?
Absolutely, yes. And in the workbook, and none of this is a commercial. I'm just referencing where these materials are. I have a worksheet that does that. Noel, did I learn this, in childhood? Did I do this as a teenager? Did I do this as a young adult? Did I do this with friends? Did I do this with family? Sort of a teasing it out of that. Yes. And
But yes,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead, go ahead. No, I could go in. I have a whole, so self-recovery has th four elements to it that are, there are readings for each one in here. And they are, oh, no, I'm sorry. Let's see if I can quickly find my little diagram here that I do use. And okay, I don't know how this translates, viewers. So, is that
Yeah,
viewable at least? Okay.
yeah.
So this is my logo sort of for self-recovery. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the four elements: self-understanding, self-awareness, self-competence, which is skill building, and self-attunement, which is spills out of attachment theory.
Yeah.
And it's learning to attune to self, all of it building relationship with self. No, that summary is really the three eras and my whole body of work poured into those things. So you are addressing self-understanding when you say about the learning to say no. That's we want to be that's and that's why they overlap. It's becoming self-aware. Yes.
So,
One way I put it for self-understanding is where did I learn to focus more on others than on myself? That's just another marker that
so
and I have yeah, go ahead.
are we saying then? I think we are, but is it is the link from childhood trauma to codependency well established?
Um
Or can you be a codependent without having childhood trauma?
yeah, so I don't have this image. I love talking to you, Noel. So yes, you my view is you can. Okay, I'm trying to decide which order. I have a diagram that is new, and I use it in some of my trainings, where it lists several things that could cause. Okay, research shows that codependency is about being externally focused. Let me establish what the research has.
Yep.
Research says that external focus is it's not a preponderance, it's a theme. We need more research. So I say that when I train folks too. But the theme is this external focus. So where does that external focus come from? Yes, trauma can be one. Now I'm on my diagram. So can um, true self, false self, and that's Alice Miller's work, where the parents needed us to please them more than them see us. That's such a brief, her work is gorgeous. Drama of the Gifted Child, fabulous. But true self, false self. Um, Murray Bowen's work, where we have differentiation and individuation in a family system. So if I grew up in a family system, they would said, "Oh, Nancy, don't leave, stay here," you know, just be stay with us. That's I didn't bring my circles today, but that's what all of my circles are about that I teach. Were you in a family system that encouraged your sense of self or not? That could affect it. Pulling into family roles, that's family systems work. Pulling into family roles and rules, that's another cause. If I grew up being the hero, if I grew up being the people pleaser,
Yeah,
Claudia Black's placater, Claudia Black's adjuster, if my family system, see, you're right, I loved your language. These are, if we want to look at through a family system lens, my family roles and rules. Attachment styles are yet a one, two, three, fourth. And then I put trauma here. But attachment styles. Did I grow up with responsive parents who were consistently sensitive and responsive to my needs? That's secure attachment. Or did I develop insecure? So, Noel, I'm again academically and broadly, I teach all of these, and different clients relate to different things. Trauma is a tough word.
yeah.
I so old wounds is I picked that up from David Kessler. I like that as well. But roles, sometimes clients really like to look at roles. Sometimes people really like to look at this individuation piece of things and see it. The theme is what has me not connected with myself. I'm going to show one more. This is the individual, this is the circles that it's working with Murray Bowen's images. And ideally, each circle is a person. And in a healthy relationship, we are able to overlap and separate
Yeah.
comfortably, bound with mutual respect and appreciation for each separate self and what we share in a joint relationship. That's a pretty important diagram too. It's not new, it's been with me all along. So in there, I want to add one other source of this loss of self, this disconnection with self. And that could be that it was modeled for us, Noel, that that parents were self-sacrificing. We witnessed them doing that, and so we learned it from them.
And this
We
is
did
not, so in the nature nurture, this is very much environment. This is nurture.
right. Yes. This is nurture.
So
This
there's
is
no
nurture.
genetic predisposition to codependency?
Well, Miss Nancy explains it. Oh, you know what? I don't know. Um, I think there can be, but I don't think I put that image in this book. Oh, yes, I did.
Oh, hold
So,
on.
Noel, you asked great questions. The audience should know that you aren't asking these questions so I can show this book. You're asking these questions because they're
I'm
apt.
your, yeah,
Okay.
your
Yeah.
adjunct
So
to the marketing strategy.
here is, yes, they're not marketing. So this is influences on development of self. This
Yeah,
is my image too. In it is the center, is their nature. And we are influenced by the family systems, past, present, that are around us, held within the social, political, religious structures in
yeah.
which the system. No, this to me is the map that tells it all for each individual. individual, each individual. So if I am inclined to be sensitive, if I am inclined to be hardworking, these are nature things.
Yeah.
If I am inclined to be organized or let's get things done, and I do think these can be related to our nature. And then I grew up in a family system
Yeah.
that's saying, we need this of you, Nancy. They aren't saying it consciously. The system is telling me that. And I go, okay, I can do that. I can, in my case, be the hero and the mascot. I can make you proud. I can make you proud. I can make you proud. Um, and there's no room for me not making them proud. And I could almost cry when I say that because it leaves very little room for failure. And
Yeah. And that's all the social psychology stuff as well. I mean,
yes,
Adler's and birth order and position in family, all of
all of
those
it.
influences, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So, um, so that image, those, those, those three circles with clients, it's all in the workbook. I break it down. There are worksheets to study each of those. Shame the workbook isn't at my fingertips. Um, um, it's on Amazon too, to make it simple. And we can study that, and those areas do bleed through each other. What's neat in the workbook, I think we only use six of my images, I'm sorry, in the book of readings, is that they bleed in between each other and are not absolute. Oh, I know where I was going. And the other thing, and when you talk about nature, I think codependency, a lot of us have an anxious nature.
Mm.
I think anxiety and codependency are partners, not uncommonly. Worry, restlessness, perfectionism, control, the things that we clinically uh, describe, define anxiety with. And so if I'm not able to partner with my anxious parts and treat my anxious parts, um, they can really influence my codependent behaviors. They can have me over functioning for someone else
But what
and under, go ahead.
but just on that, Nancy, your anxious traits, and yes, there can be types, right? But those anxious traits, were they defined by a genetic predisposition, or were they a developed coping strategy in response to your environment? I know that's a bit of a mouthful of a question.
No, no, I'm smile because it's the classic question.
Hmm.
And so I'm not but I'm going to give you an answer. It's more observational and anecdotal. Um, I see anxiety. It won't define it though. Watch how tangled it gets. I see anxiety in all my family members. I see it in one just so profoundly. Okay, so profoundly. And then I know what I grew up with, which would have encouraged being anxious and self-protective. So one of the things, Noel, and I'm sure you know this with research, is that we find that there's a word for it, that some genetic traits get either encouraged or discouraged by the family system that
Yes,
we
yes.
grow up in. I can't remember what the word is. It's excellent. I'll make sure I know it by when we talk again in 7 years. But anyway, kidding.
It'll be sooner, don't worry.
Good. We do have a lot to talk about. So I think that I see it in my daughter, my biological daughter as well, okay, generationally. And so I do think it may have a genetic piece. And I do think then it's encouraged by discouraged or encouraged by the environment, family, and world in which we grow up in. Mhm.
If at this point, let's just, I attended an online course recently, which I found really interesting, actually. It's Gabor Mate's Myth of the
Yes.
Normal.
Oh, sure.
And he's gone
Hmm.
through his ideas, and it's, very challenging, the prevailing ethos on how we define psychiatric illnesses and
Yes.
complexes.
And so to that end, after 49 years of clinical practice, nature and nurture, I think the verdict, the jury is out on that. But I do think there's probably an interplay. I think I gravitate that direction.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I can kind of oscillate, I think, between the two. I think there are genetic predispositions that certain environments then manifest those particular
Yes.
traits. But what he says, and I've written this down, I just found these notes, which I think might help us, that coping mechanisms induced by traumatic experiences in childhood, therefore, personality is determined by trauma, and people are not their personality. Once you let go of these traits, their physical and mental health can get better.
Hmm.
So that is very, that it's not you're not who you think you are.
Right. Right. Because you are not connected. No, no, this is where my work comes in, where you don't know yourself well enough. I
Yeah.
mean, we've been blocked from
Yeah.
really knowing how to pause and truly acknowledge how do I feel in
Yeah.
this
And how
moment.
to be authentic. Because if you've always been a
Yes,
people pleaser, how the hell do you become authentic and say,
e- e-
oh, these are my
exactly.
needs?
Ex- And so this readings book is the quick but rich and deep. It sounds like an ad. It's not. I love the little book. I wrote it at my writer's studio primarily in a lovely rural setting with plenty of outdoors and walking and time to myself woven in with my clinical experience. And it's really answering that question. How do I really connect with myself? And it is a path of first that involves awareness of the extent to which I have top three ingredients of change, awareness of what we're talking about here today, how I'm trying to people please. I'm aware of that. And Nancy's talking about genuine connection with self. I don't even know what that means.
Mm,
Okay, but awareness, willingness. Now I'm bringing in program language here, but it's so important. I'll work on Gabor's language. I agree with that, what you read. It's what
mm.
I'm talking about, but I operationalize it 200 ways in this book. Am I willing to let go of these traits? Am I willing? Not how to. First, I got to find out if I'm willing because they've protected me so much
Yeah.
and they're so familiar. And sometimes they've gotten us a good ways in life.
And internal family systems would say, are you giving yourself permission to let
Yes,
go of some of those protecting
yes,
parts, maybe?
exactly, exactly. Absolutely. And I'm not an IFS expert. I do use parts perspective in my work. I'm not going to say more than that. I think IFS is great. One of several great ways to do some of this deeper work. But yes, so am I aware of my traits? Can I bring non-judgment and non-striving to those awareness? Am I willing to alter some of those traits to free myself, to pick up your words? And the third word I use is automatically happens. Then I have to start reading a daily reading, sitting still long enough to do the reflection
Yeah.
at the end of it, doing a worksheet, doing homework my therapist has suggested, making a call I've been putting off. I could keep going on and
Yeah.
on. I start becoming extremely practical.
And
This is
re-engaging with your life, right?
right, right. Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So So just thinking about this, people watching will have a good, hopefully a good idea, especially if I add the links to what codependency is from our previous chats.
Okay.
But they might be now thinking, what would a treatment plan look like in therapy? Because, Gabor Mate was saying uh, his idea is therapy is to facilitate helping someone understand the meaning they give to past behaviors that are no longer, I'm paraphrasing, and that they can let go of those coping mechanisms and be more authentic and take responsibility to lead a more transformational life.
So, ditto.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
It's just how you get there, I guess, right?
yeah, but so, I think what's valuable, I don't know why I say this, but I will, is Gabor is coming out of an addictions model
Yeah,
originally. Not, that may be not completely accurate, but it's interesting because codependency, as you said, came out of the addictions field
yeah,
as well. And he and I, not to put me in his league, but we are separately, we have our own topics out of that addiction model. And I agree with everything he said. So to I feel like with my clients, and I teach this in the webinars, um, sometimes it begins with psychoeducation.
yeah,
Some of the things I'm sharing with you, I mean, I teach it through the circles I don't have in my hands here today. But by the way, everybody, these circles here are the circles that I'm talking about,
yeah,
and how we lose ourselves in others. I teach it with balance scales. I work with continuums a lot with self and other. So the first is, I say 50% of it is helping people with this awareness through psychoeducation and then some type of daily monitoring of self, not in a that sounds really more tasky than I mean it to be. Just can you notice once today where you overstated something? Can you notice once today where you were going to stop and somebody interrupted you and asked for something and you jumped up and did it instead? Okay, so the first part is the psychoeducation.
yeah.
Lisa Ferenz, whose work I love, and I get to work for her institute these days. Um, that's Ferentz. Says that psychoeducation is therapy, and
Mm.
I agree. I agree with that. And then, I mean, I'm working with your question about therapy. I think it needs to be rooted in the client's goals. I think it needs, once I understand myself better and sort of see what's possible, I want the client. Yes, I don't know in the UK or way in other places in the world. In the US, it used to be, it still is, if your insurance companies are paying for therapy, you have to have goals and strategies
Oh
to
yeah, yeah,
accommodate that.
yeah,
I don't poo-poo that. And separate but related, what does the client want? And I want this is self attunement early on. What is it you're here for? What would make your life better? And they go, well, if they behaved. And I would say, that's not a choice right now. What we're doing is learning what is in your control and what would you like to be different in your own life. And they go, well, if they would, I mean, I see you smiling.
No,
And I'm like,
You know
Go
what?
ahead.
I'm smiling
Yeah.
because what about the people you're seeking to help and you pose those questions to, and they reply by saying, "You tell me."
And I would say, well, first of all, it wouldn't be in the first session. This might be 3 to 5 sessions in, because I would have done a little psychoeducation. And this is early on. I would say, I can do that. And I will, because we have to write these goals. And as you work on your self connection, which is what's going to fix the deeper root here,
Mm.
I'm going to be asking you to think of what you want. So, and again, I'm role playing it a little bit here. No, I'll go another step. So, I, one of my goals is to help you feel less anxious. Okay. But that's a clinical goal. We want your body to calm
Mm.
down, and we will be working on that. Now, what do you think would help with that? How might, would you like to feel less anxious? And they might say, well, sure, I would, and I would say, well, what does it look like when you're less anxious? And
Mm.
they would say, well, I'm not checking my emails all the time.
Yeah.
And so then, okay, so then, so it is a movement between, I do see what they can't see. How do I help them see it? But clinically, this is such an important piece. I mean, no, we could do a whole podcast series on working with codependents because I don't want to play out their old patterns with them. I don't want to be the authority. As Terry Real says, I don't want to be the one up and they're the one down person.
Yeah.
I want, and that is also half of our clinical work. So that's how I answer your question
No, no,
about
that's
what.
good. And it's a difficult kind of it's a huge landscape to try and condense it into such a small area. Um, Stephen Porges
Yes.
and his work on neural expectations. I just wrote them down here. The child's need for safety, not having to work, freedom to feel all emotions, including healthily expressing anger, and free play and spontaneous play, not stuck on a smartphone, but out mixing with other people, older and younger people. Now, a lot of those neural expectations are going to be restricted by the environment, right? It's
Yes.
parents stressed,
Yes.
having to work 5 jobs,
Right.
um, parents with their heads stuck in smartphones,
Yes.
addiction,
Yes.
abuse,
Yes.
abandonment. We could keep going on. So, is that all in the environment if we think of nature, nurture, or and is that so that's what where codependency comes from, or can there still be a genetic predisposition to
So what I
replicate
would
such behavior?
say, I and is first yes to everything that you were saying, and yes to Stephen Port. That quotation, it supports what I'm saying about. Okay, let's condense it. The peer review research that exists really since 2000 supports that codependency is defined as this strong external focus and a lack of connection with self. So then everything Stephen Porges is saying there about the ways those are just other good examples of ways we are conditioned, parented into that self disconnection thing. The genetic piece, I have an additional answer for you. I've never said it this way, but I don't think that we would say there's a genetic predisposition. Well, it's not been researched,
Mm.
a predisposition toward codependency. Here's what I am saying. I think that we have genetic predispositions toward characteristics that
Yes.
can support codependent behaviors
Yeah.
and patterns.
If the
That
environment then
you
meets
got it.
those conditions, then
Absolutely.
that
Yes.
predisposition or tendency will
Right.
then manifest and unfold.
Absolutely. And so thank you for helping me to pull that complete paragraph out, that it is the characteristics, some of which can really support external focus, accommodation, people pleasing, conflict avoiding, all of those types of
Yeah.
things. Yes. Hmm.
Now, just another, give me if it's a slightly left field. Well, it's not quite left field. We're talking about treatment plans and what is recovery. I currently have tennis elbow, right? Now, I go to physiotherapy and I want to get fixed.
Right.
If I was unfortunate enough to have a cancer, I would go and seek a cure
Right.
for that disease. Now, psychological healing is very different, right? It's
Hmm.
if we're talking about um this, well, some people want a magic pill or a silver bullet, but as we know, it's not really possible, is it?
Well, I don't have one.
The healing journey is complicated and there is heavy lifting involved.
Yes. Yes.
How would you describe the healing path?
Yeah. So I haven't spoken today yet about how mindfulness is woven into my
Mm,
practice. And thus the title of the book you hear today. It is inviting self-connection, and it's inviting it, and it's rooted in part in the work of John Kabat-Zinn and Thich Nhat Hanh. And Thich Nhat Hanh, in some of his readings, talks about, oh, I'm sorry, and Alice Miller, who does the drama of the gifted child. They both talk about becoming. The goal is to become our own parent, our
mm,
own friend, our own therapist. In the book of readings, that's what oh, again, no, I don't want to take TV time here. TV, listen to me. How old
mm,
am I? Well, y'all can figure that out.
mm.
Um, it is let's see, each it has 8 sections in this book, and they each have um their own table of contents. You are becoming your own parent. So this is how the book reads. Each page has its own sentence lead in. It's not a
Yes.
word. So you are becoming your own parent. You are becoming your own teacher. You are becoming your own counselor. You are becoming your own best friend.
And Dick
Um,
Schwartz would say that's your internal
yeah,
self.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right. Um, Counselors are there for you. This is what I would help a client understand about what I can offer. Counselors are there for you when you need them. Problems arise, moods get low, anxiety takes over, or relationships go sour. Counselors can help you through challenging times. But seeing a counselor is not a permanent relationship for the most part. At some point, you resolve the problem, feel better, and grow on. Then it is time to use all that you learned from your counselor to become your own counselor. Instead of being dependent on them for support and guidance, you can offer yourself those beautiful counseling services listed above. And guess what? You can schedule an appointment with your internal counselor
Yes.
anytime. They
Yes.
are on call 24/7 just for you.
Even when you're asleep.
Yes. Yes, they can help put you to sleep.
Yeah.
So, Noel, that might be disappointing to some people, but it's really
But it's
what
taking responsibility for your own life, isn't it?
to use Gabor, is
Yeah.
Gabor who said that. Yes. And here's how I also teach it. I'm trying to help you fix the deeper underlying issue. We can fix your depression. We can fix your anxiety, medications, somatic practices. We can fix those things. But if your traits, I'll use Gabor's word, if my traits are adding to those, if my traits have me over functioning for others and under functioning for
Yeah.
me, then I'm going to keep having my anxiety and depression. So I'm inviting us to really try to fix, yeah. Um, I don't want to say the engine. There's, I don't have the metaphor clear. I'm just wanting us to help fix and free ourselves from the old patterns.
Yeah.
Mhm. At a deeper level. Mhm. Um, I have found that many people are okay with that path. I do work online with workshops, not group therapy, teaching the material, and clients know the folks, it's cohorts. The people in the cohorts know that they're going to be doing a lot of the work. Sometimes we meet for like a 2 hour block, and I give them a written assignment, and we go off screen for 15 or 20 minutes when they go write and self-reflect, and then we come back and they get to share and process what they came up with. Why do I do that from a codependent lens? Because if I ask a question and we're in a group format, the first person who answers is usually the one who can't stand the silence and so pops up, playing out their behavior. And then they set a tone. They set everybody's watching and thinking them and not
Mm.
attuning to self. They're like, yeah, well, I've done that too. And I'm not poo-pooing that. It is valuable, but I am really saying we'll do that. But first, let me help you set the stage to think, what do I think of that? What do I do? How do I respond to that? Because I'm wanting to help you learn to do that,
Yeah. That not being able to sit with their silence.
right?
I mean, how long is a piece of string? But what is that, in your experience, usually due to? Is it
Um,
impulse control? Is it lack
no.
of
Yeah,
intimacy issues? Is it?
right. It could be any of those, Noel. So forgive the no. I take that back. I
No,
take
that's
that back.
fine. You can
Yeah.
say no.
But no, no, it's anything. See,
Yeah.
I think of things on a continuum. I'm an integrationist. I don't think oh, I'll come back. Research. I want to say one old topic, but
Hmm.
I think it's who knows. So I'll answer your question as a codependent, as a person with codependent traits. That's how I like to use it, not the noun. First of all, nobody's answering. I feel bad for the presenter. I feel bad. They ask us a question and
Yeah.
nobody's answering. Okay, so that's one is all of a sudden I'm in a system that I feel like I need to fix, or I bet everybody feels awkward, and I bet everybody would be helped if I would go ahead and speak up. I may not even be aware of that. Okay.
Mm.
Or I could, speaking from my codependent patterns and behaviors, let me be in that. I could just feel like something bad's going to happen if we don't fill this space, this emptiness. Instead of me feeling worried for the person who set the stage, I could feel worried that they're going to get mad at us for no, well, fine. I bring everything here. I'm making this up,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
I could be worried. Somehow I'm worried about notice the worry word. I'm worried about the presenter or the persons who's asked it.
yeah,
I'm worried they either feel bad, they think nobody's interested, or they're going to be mad, or I'm worried about other people in the room.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Because it's interesting, that's setting the tone, the first person who speaks in a group, that can be very easily manipulated by people who go around before a meeting telling others that they're going to bring something. And
Right. Now that,
and they
yeah,
might not, but
right,
when the meeting starts, everyone else is thinking, "Oh, Johnny in the corner is going to raise this issue." So
right,
they're
right.
already thinking about it, and then
I-
they
I-
might raise it themselves.
right.
And
When
Johnny
they,
sits back and smokes his cigar, thinking everything is worked out, that the dance has happened without me really doing anything. But it's
uh
manipulation, isn't it?
It can be in that it certainly can be. It can be the person who and they aren't aware. Notice how many times I say aren't aware
Yeah,
of that they it can be the person who needs the attention, who speaks up also, or and it's out of proportion to the number to yeah, and we're like, oh, they need that. And oh, the codependent dynamic, that's a good word too, plays into these cohorts. And of course, I have a camp that I do twice a year, a weekend retreat, codependence camp. And it plays in there. It's like people will say, I wanted to bring up such and such, but I felt like so and so really needed the time.
yeah.
And that's no judgment, but that's like I might coach a little bit and say, I appreciate you thinking of them. And I think it's important for us to hear from you as well. And so if you want to bring it up, or did or do when we reconvene, please do.
You
Mhm.
know, it's interesting. I just had a flashback. My second year of training, we did group therapy for, I can't remember, it was a few months. I don't know, 20 sessions or something. Anyway, I think I was generally quite vocal. One week I turned up and I wasn't vocal. And then a, a fellow trainee pitched in and said, "Oh, Noel is being quiet. What's going on?" So anyway,
Right,
I went back
right,
to many years ago. It's
right.
interesting,
Well,
the stuff
no.
that
And
we store as memories.
so what was going on?
Sorry?
What was going on? Why did you choose to be quieter?
There was probably something. I can't remember the detail, but it's interesting how someone else picked up on it,
Right.
where
But
other people would have been oblivious.
exactly. And I'm just doing, I'm using it as an example where in self-recovery we could go one step further. They picked up on it, but you knowing why you had chosen it is where the solid ground is.
Yeah, sometimes it could be self-protection, but it might also be passive aggression. You know, we'll
Yeah.
stay
What,
quiet when it's like, screw you.
right. So it is all we have to do is be aware. There it is
Yeah.
again. Why am I doing this? In Disentangle, in the original book, I have a essay on what are my motivations. We don't have, so that's still the way I can talk about it. But am being passive aggressive, and I have something in my life I'm being a little passive aggressive about right now. Not in this interview, but it's like, well, I want to be aware of it. And here comes Gabor's word. I want to take responsibility for that. I
Yeah.
want to know that that's what I'm choosing to do. And as time goes by, how is that serving me? Not how are they serving me? How am I serving me? How is that serving me?
Yeah.
And we could do parts work, go deeper. What is
Yep.
that about? What part is so upset that we have that I am acting that way? I hope I'm helping you have a sense of where I work,
Yeah.
how it always comes back in a loving, curious, surprising way. to self.
Yeah, and there might be it gets the inner constellations get quite complex, don't they? You might have
You know
protecting
what?
parts,
You
and you
got it.
you know if
It
you get
can
rid of
be.
that protecting part, then you feel this stuff over here, and then you feel more vulnerable. So, like addictions
Yeah, but
can
no,
often be a protecting part because it numbs, it potentially tries to numb, and it keeps you from feeling something else, grief, fear.
everything you've said is happens in my cohorts, which we meet once a month, and they go on for years, actually, because what we're finding is the parts, everything you just said. All of the people, we get on board with self other and over functioning. We get on board with continuums and keeping balance for self and intentional practices. And then, just like you said, these different parts start showing up and need attention. And my work is trying to help, and it's all in this is all in friendly ways in the book of readings, is about how to meet, greet, and respond to those parts and
Yeah.
develop a working relationship in your internal community.
Yes. No, that's beautiful. I need to we better start wrapping up. It's been such a pleasure speaking again, Nancy. And I one thing I just want to say, and I think people that are not familiar with therapy and codependency and recovery, for me to be authentic and to stop maybe being the people pleaser or the rescuer
Right.
doesn't mean you become a rude person. You know, we all know
No.
the people who go, who are rude and potentially obnoxious
Hmm.
because they think that's being authentic.
Right.
This
Right.
is about being real, authentic, but still kind and still,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And only the word I would add is finding my assertive voice.
yeah,
And this is, I teach it, not passive, not aggressive, assertive. The I statement of what is true for me and how I can express that in a tidy, considerate way that respects you and me both. Yeah. Yeah. So that's in the self-competence element is developing this assertive voice that
yeah,
that's kind. Everything about self-recovery is not becoming selfish. It's about being able to factor self in as we factor others and finding what is true for us in that moment. What is true for us, for you here today? What is true for me here today? Mhm.
yeah.
It's real solid ground to live on.
It is. Well, I hope people get an idea of that there's recovery, there's resources,
Yes,
there's a better way of living than
yes,
living in a way that's maladaptive,
exactly,
it
exactly.
maladaptive. Um, we won't leave it as long as
Okay.
six. I'm doing the maths now.
Yeah, it was 6 years, 2020, you said.
2020,
Right.
October. So it will be 6 years in October
Yeah, yeah,
because we had the but again, I think just the passage of time, if you think from the pandemic era time, that year, 2020,
right.
does it feel like that amount of time?
No,
Or
not
do
at
we have a
all.
distorted view because we're getting older or because of the pandemic or because
Right.
we're busier or
Well, I think busy is certainly a full life is certainly part of it. Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
maybe we need to be less busy and stop and re-engage with our lives.
There is the mindfulness.
Yeah.
There's the mindfulness. Just pauses. Oh, so Noel, I have 12 things to say. So, in summary,
Yeah.
I condense all of my work into 5 words, and it relates to pause, connect with body and breath, notice what's going on in mind, body, emotions, and spirit, reflect, and respond. And I teach that now. We practice that, so I'll say it again because people ask me what it is. Pause, connect, notice, reflect, and respond.
And reflect and respond. How long does that take?
Oh, see, reflect is about what really is, if I calm myself and connect with myself, I find that something emerges that wants my attention,
Hmm.
or some clarity comes of an idea. One something I'm like, oh, I'm really noticing that. How do I want, and the last one is, how do I want to respond to what has emerged? So it's you here today. There's an essay on that in there. Um, it's how do I flow through that? It's a way of operating. So I'm going to do a commercial, and that is to say, I was recently invited to join to be a teacher on Insight Timer, because bringing the codependency expertise to it. And many people know it. It has millions of followers. It's an app that's free.
Inside timer. This is new to me.
INSIGHT, Insight Timer. It's been a meditation app, but they're moving into other topics and they wanted what I'm doing. I have a very meager beginning, but here's what I'm telling you. It's free. You have to do it on your phone. Maybe you don't. And I'm doing audio recordings, 5 and 8 minutes, that
Great.
guide people in pause and connect. Last week, I did two recordings called Not a Great Day and Rattled. And I'm really, it's a meditation to just support you here today. It's not from it, it's practicing it. So, yeah. So, um, I'm watching my screen just did something weird, but anyway. Um,
As screens tend to do, right?
yeah, exactly. So I wanted to mention the insight timer. Last comment. If you tell me how you feel about this, being the podcaster you are, I think if people who watch this would like us to talk more about something they've heard in this or extend a conversation about something we went into and got away from. I would love to hear that in comments if they wanted to write that in
Yeah, good. That's a good invitation.
as
Yeah.
a guidance for what we might chat about because it is a good conversation. I
Because
have
we've
enjoyed
covered
it.
such a broad area that
Broad,
you could potentially knuckle down to a particular area.
exactly. Or you never got back to and whatever. So I do want to answer one thing
Or
because
we get
careful.
Gavar on and have him sitting here
Oh my gosh.
throwing things at us.
I think now in 2026, I'm ready. So, but what I want to say in
Yep.
closing to answer something from an hour ago, no, there's no research that directly says trauma causes codependency. They're working, they're just moving toward that. So I cannot cite a study that
Mm.
says that specific thing. It does show that it causes disconnection with self, but I can't say each of those areas that contribute to codependency. They're doing research in each of those areas, and it's all new and important. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, that's nice and succinct.
Hmm.
Beautiful.
Hmm.
Stay on the line, but for now,
Okay.
thank you so much,
Thank
Nancy.
you. Thank you.
It
Thank
was
you.
a great treat. I made some notes beforehand, and we've touched on all of the points, but we could have done so much more, and I'm sure we will
I look forward to it.
in
Thank you,
due
Noel.
course.
Thank you
Thank
so
you again.
much.
Enjoy the
Okay.
rest of your
And bye,
day.
everybody. Thanks for joining.